Okay. As you can see, the roundtable is not complete, but our last speaker is going to arrive any moment now, but we're going to start. So welcome to this discussion on AI and contemporary practices of creation. I'll be your moderator for this session. My name is Clément. I'm a faculty at Université Paris-PSL and a member of RIE. And so I'm delighted to have this fantastic lineup of speakers. So it's going to go differently from the previous panel sessions, but much in line with Justine's talk. We were trying to showcase especially positive use cases of AI in creation and craft in a broad sense. So with me on stage, I've got the pleasure of having from left to right, Samuel Bianchini, who's an artist and teacher researcher at ENSAD, École nationale, supérieure des arts Décoratifs-PSL, and also the leader, I believe, of the Reflective Interaction Group at ENSAD Lab. Hugo Casselles-Dupré from Obvious is going to join us in a moment, but let me just say that Obvious is an artist collective on using ML for art, or machine learning for art, in partnership with Université and Sorbonne Université. Alina Glushkova, a researcher at Center of Robotics of École PSL again. So we'll hear more about your research, but you just mentioned that you're a co-author of working with AI in cultural and creative industries, which is very much in line with the topic of this discussion. And Barbara Turquier, Director of Research at Fémis, which is a partner of PSL, and former Director of SACRE, which is a kind of a unique research program, research and creation program. Okay, so as I was saying, Hugo. As I was saying, we're going to go literally around the table, and in order, each member of the panel is going to present the way AI has impacted their field, field being understood in a broad sense. And so we're going to start with you, Barbara Turquier. As you know, you might have entered this room expecting, as I was maybe while accepting to moderate this panel, a discussion on AI creation. Is it good or bad? And maybe some open questions, which I feel have kind of already been addressed by the people actually working in these fields. So this is a much better theme for the session to hear about them. Okay, so as an academic, perhaps when I'm thinking about art and AI and AI in creation, I wonder how someone who gets trained in creation gets exposed to AI and maybe end up using AI in their field. And so the question I want to ask you, Barbara Turquier, is how does AI impact research and teaching in a film and television school such as Fémis? So I'll leave the floor to you to answer that.
Thank you very much. Yes, I work for La Fémis. La Fémis, I don't know if you know it, is one of the French national film schools preparing to 10 different film professions. So it's not just filmmakers, but screenwriters, producers, sound engineers, DOPs, set designers, continuity, editing, editors, exhibitors, distributors. So all of these fields are impacted by AI. And the school is also at a crossroads between generations of film professionals and between these different film trades. So that makes it an interesting field to see how AI impacts our industries. I'm in charge of research at the school. Research we are rooted in a dialogue between film practice and research. We are participating in a number of PSL initiatives, and notably the SACRE programs, Sciences, Art, Création, Recherche, which you mentioned, which is a practice-based doctoral program. So AI is a topic crossing research, teaching, and the professional world industry, and it impacts potentially all aspects of film and series creation, film and series being our main focus at the school. And we have tackled the subject since 2024 in different ways, organizing scientific symposiums on this impact through specific practice-based workshops, also very simply in the films made by our students. So I would say that the strategy, sorry, so this is just a number of, yes. I would say the strategy that is developed at the school implies three objectives: to inform, to experiment, and to advance, with one guiding idea being that artistic vision is at the core of the school and guides all of our actions. So the aim is first to contribute to and to share knowledge on how AI impacts the film industry and the film professions. In that sense, research fuels teaching in the way that we try to teach students to understand the fundamentals of AI, its functioning, its limits, to situate themselves in a wider environment as image maker, as storytellers, to raise their critical thinking, to understand, to question perhaps also some ideas like the valorization of photorealism, for instance, or just to get a sense of understanding the shifting image culture in which they are placed. Also understand how this is not just a technological shift, but also connected to a wider environment that affects all creative ecosystems, our sovereignty, our model based on cultural exception, etc. So just to understand that these changes, whether it's attacks on copyright laws, or whether it's the rise of data-driven logic in distribution platforms that is going to affect visual norms, narrative norms, in the way that artworks, series, content is accessible worldwide. Also, we try to encourage more ethical uses of AI, meaning mindful of the environmental impact of AI, respectful of legislation, for instance, encouraging students to use their own data sets or using public domain archives, etc. The second idea is through experimentation. So we have conducted various AI workshops in set design, in cinematography, in screenwriting, in the editing departments, with the aim to enable future professionals to preserve their singularity in the face of algorithmic uniformization. So, for instance, this has led to work on specific steps in the process of creating films, like using AI to help storyboarding or producing script breakdowns for film producers or for continuity supervisors. At preparation stage, reworking visuals based on scouted locations or drawings by set designers, or analyzing scripts for a script first draft, for instance, for screenwriters. So this has led us to experience how AI, notably generative AI, challenges the organization of existing film production, for instance, through steps of pre-visualization before shooting, based on the scripts, for instance, or rewriting stage at the editing, in the post-production stage, which was things that we couldn't do beforehand. So it challenges the order of things and the organization. So we have experienced a wide ranges of uses, from invisible tools which merely accelerate or automate existing processes, to AI used as a companion in preparatory or in exploratory phases, to full essay films on using AI-generated imagery. This is a few examples of the films that have some of our students have made, which have circulated in festivals around the world, by Arthur Chopin, Amalia Bordet, or a current project by Maël André, which are mostly reflexive essay films on this emerging visual culture. So a couple of visuals. So what's next? We want to continue exploring the impact of AI and Gen AI on other film professions and departments, for instance, in production processes. We're also creating a lab with AI as a topic to create a space for more experimentation and reflection. We're also looking to continue collaborative research projects on AI and film, notably with partners in the film industry, with the CNC, or with PSL. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. So as we see, there's schools and art schools and Fémis in particular have already taken on themselves to incorporate AI in their curriculum and in thinking about how to produce art. And so in an academic world, things are already starting. And I want to jump on what you said about generative AI, which is kind of the elephant in the room, right? Is this in particular changing the creation world among others? And I want to go from academic labs maybe to startup with you, Hugo Casselles-Dupré. So I'll reintroduce you. You're the director of research and co-founder of Obvious, an artist collective on using machine learning for art. And I believe I heard you refer to part of what you're doing as GANism, using generative adversarial networks. So I actually feel that I should just give the floor to you to tell us more about how you use generative AI.
Sure. Thank you very much for the invitation. So I'm Hugo Casselles-Dupré. I'm part of Obvious. So at the beginning, we are a trio of friends who became artists by taking control of the tool that is AI. So basically, originally, I'm more of a scientist. So I obtained a PhD at ENSAD and did a postdoc at Sorbonne University. And right around 2016, we, with Pierre and Gauthier, wanted to do something creative together. And we always wanted to do something more creative. We didn't want to have like a regular job, and we wanted to create. And back then, so we had not really the will to create on our own. We wanted to create as a trio. And because I was pursuing my research in AI, I came across different types of algorithms that at the time were kind of groundbreaking, and now they are kind of really lame in some sense. But for instance, generative adversarial networks were the kind of the premise of the image generation algorithm. And back then, we were really surprised and astonished by the results of those algorithms. And we thought, hey, that's a new tool that we can use as a trio. Because it's very different from other tools. It's not like painting or sculpture. We can basically draw together, and we can decide which data comes in, which type of algorithm we use, how we manage it, how we tweak it, how we modify it, how we train it. And then based on the selection of the result, we can basically do the selection as a trio and create artworks this way. And so we started with that. And something crazy happened to us at the beginning of our career. So this is me, Gauthier and Pierre, as I was mentioning. And something that's basically crazy happened at the beginning of our career. We created a first series of portraits, which was called La Famille de Bellamy. And it was basically GANs trained on classical portraits, ranging from the 14th to the 20th century. And we trained this algorithm on this, and then we selected the result and framed it, printed it, and we created this first series. And then Christie's, so a major auction house, came to us and asked us to sell one of our artworks in their very famous contemporary art sale in New York. And we of course accepted, but it was like a really weird moment for us, because it was a kind of a crazy beginning in our career. And moreover, it was like put at auction for like nearly $10,000, and it went for nearly $500,000. So it was quite a big splash in the contemporary art world. So it was like the reception was very polarized. So you had people that really liked it and thought it was groundbreaking, and many people also didn't like it and thought it was the death of art. And so the whole idea behind this artwork and our practice is to question the use of this tool within a contemporary art perspective. And so it might be very interesting to ask this question and very new, but in reality it's kind of in the continuity of the question that have been asked within the frame of contemporary art since Marcel Duchamp in 100 years ago. The idea of art is now more conceptual in some sense, and so the tool that you're using, the way you're using, the intention that are behind your work is more important now. And so basically whoever creates with a tool can claim itself as an artist, and then if there's a reception from the art world, it can be considered as an artist. So in our own practice, we try to basically use AI as a tool, as a new tool, because it requires some craftsmanship in some sense. So as I said, as I'm a scientist, I understand how this algorithm works. I've developed some in my research, in my PhD, in my postdocs, and now we've created an actual research lab with Sorbonne University. We are funded by the National Agency for Research in France, ANR, and we have this research project from 2023 to 2027, where we are recruiting PhDs and interns and postdocs to work on creating novel algorithms, training them, publishing those contributions in the research field. So being like very open about what we do, creating our algorithm, putting them open source, and having feedback from the scientific community, and then using those to create our works and our different exhibition and projects. So that's basically the vision that is described a little bit earlier. So we have this artistic trio where we have our artistic production. Then we have our research lab where we create our own tools to create our artworks. We believe that it's more interesting to create with AI when you're actually developing your own tool rather than just prompting, for instance. That's usual critic that to AI art, and in our sense, it's a valid one, because it's more interesting if you actually create your own craftsman savoir-faire in some sense. I don't have the word in English. And also our artworks do actually talk about AI, so we are trying to have a message about the impact of AI on our society. And we believe that art is a very good prism to talk about those impacts, and to open windows, and to basically give keys to the viewer to better understand what AI actually is. So maybe I can show you a few projects that we did. So back to 2018, after the auction, we had the chance to do many exhibitions in different museums. So the art world is very open about AI art and wants to know more, wants to talk about it. So there's not like there's a great acceptance of AI art, I would say, in the art world, because they are really curious and really used to the type of new types of art. So I guess more than a general audience, I would say. So some of the other projects that we did besides the artwork was we also want to work with brands and with more open institutions to kind of open our work to a general audience. So we did a project with Alpine, for instance, where we did an art car in Grand Palais Éphémère. We did a collaboration with Opéra de Paris, for instance. So we are doing many projects with institutions, because we believe that working with institutions and brand can allow people to understand what AI art actually is. And so about the research, quick word about this. So the two different types of field that we are experimenting with are mostly related to video generation. So image generation is now very much has has progressed very much, and there are less bottlenecks, I would say, and there are more bottlenecks around video generation. So we're working a lot on this, and for us, it means creating new algorithms for video generation and then using them for video projection, for instance, or immersive experiences, stuff like that. We've done that in the past. And we also worked with Institut du cerveau et de la moelle épinière, so Paris Brain Institute, on the frontier of neuroscience and AI. So there are lots of research at that crossroads of two disciplines, and basically there are some beginnings of the mind reading technology that are developed using MRI and AI. It sounds like bullshit, but it's actually the case, and there are really serious paper about that, and we've actually worked in this field for last exhibition. So it just goes to show that the exploration, AI allows you to explore many different types of disciplines. We're actually writing a Molière plays at the moment with Sorbonne University, an expert of Molière there. So for us, it's a really good playground that we are basically advancing as we do our discoveries and exploring artistically to basically show what you can do with this type of new tools. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so thank you for sharing this initiative as a art collective and a research lab. I should have mentioned that. You mentioned you were recruiting PhD students on a completely unrelated note. I'd like to salute all my master students who are in the room right now. Okay, so we've seen example of media creation using AI, image, video, in particular music also. And naturally comes the question after that of perhaps a more or the physical, right, artwork that could be also affected by AI. And so Samuel Bianchini, you worked at the in physical as well as symbolic operations, and I remember vividly seeing this installation in my very own university, Paris-Dauphine, a while ago. So I want to ask you how you can leverage AI to go possibly beyond the digital world, and what other kind of use of AI have you experimented with in your own art?
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. And yes, that's true. We want to work with the physical world, and I mean, for example, with the robotic field. So maybe I would like just to begin by an example, and from the example to have a few reflections. So here, this is a video presenting an installation with a pneumatic robot. Normally it should move. So, as you can see, this is a breathing object. And one of the hypotheses with that was to make a kind of a very deep affective connection, relationship with the audience, and to use the breath as a way to interact with the audience, and with the possibility to influence the rhythm of the breath of the audience through this object, you know, using a kind of empathy through the breath. And to do so, we had to develop a specific small model, which is called Ganspire, and we did that with Glushkova, Baptiste Caramio, and Thomas Milowski for the pneumology. And I would like, through that, I would like to underline the fact that this is important as a creator, as artist, designer, not to be just user, but to have the possibility to develop our own tools and to share them. And I think we have a connection on this position. So here you can see that this is not only a tool for our own installation, but it is a tool that now we can share and we can publish from the research through these tools and through this application in an art installation. So this is a way to develop the research in art. And how can we use it in the system? So here you have a very simple scheme of the system. We use a thermal camera with face detection, with tracking, to reproduce the rhythm of the breath of the audience and allowing to the audience to interact with the system, so with a piece of art. But I have to say it's not a way just to interact from human to machine, but this is a way to have a real interaction, so from machine, from the robot, for the piece of art to the human. And you can see here how we use that. So just using the thermal contrast coming from the nose, it is possible to rebuild the rhythm of the breath of the audience. And of course, from that, we can create a kind of a very affective relationship between the installation and the audience. So this is an important point in that case to say the result. It's not the use and the result of using AI. It's in the process. So how can we use a generative system in real time, to control the whole apparatus? So I mean, it's not just a robot, but it is the light as well and the sound. So this is a real sound, a real-time sound. The next example, it's from a colleague of my lab, Dominique Cunin and Mayumi Okura. And so they work on the Pierrot lunar poetry and used by Schoenberg as well. And one of the things which is interesting for me today with that, it is the fact that, at the beginning with AI, it's a kind of a conversational situation. So you ask for something, you receive a result, and from that you can explore different modalities. But now, this is more a way to connect different AI agents all together. So, so to prepare a kind of workflow to obtain the result that you can search for or explore. So in that case, you can see that we use a tool which is a Comfy UI to patch the different AI and to go from the poetry to an interpretation in a still image, and using the still image to produce a video. So, this is a kind of a workflow, specific workflow. And in that case, it's not just to develop your own workflow as a kind of tool for different art piece, but you can even develop a workflow for each art piece. So this is interesting to reflect about the fact that you can create your own media, we could say your own configuration for just one art piece. And you can see here how you can do that by patching different AI all together. And the last example, it is this artwork called Taking Life, Making Life, and I show that in the Jeux de Paume exhibition about AI last year. And one of the things with this art piece, and I'm going to show you the image, it is the fact that it is real time as well. So how can we produce something? Can you not generate, but we can propose a kind of living system, and you can feel that it is real time in that case, because that's important for me to exhibit the computer as well. So you can see the image coming from the computer, and it's a living system with a single image as a kind of ecosystem for this living system coming, which is an automatic cellular. Coming from Game of Life, but now this is more complex because this is a linear software. So I use it to give a kind of life to a singer, to a photograph. So in that case, I would like to focus on the fact that there is no data except one image. So there is no data set, you know. It is possible to think about AI and how to develop work of art just in an emergent way. So that's another case, maybe to explain that there is a lot of type of AI, and it is possible as an artist to explore this different type, and maybe, as we have seen that on the other project, Pierrot Lunaire, it is possible, of course, to cooperate with different AI in the same time by patching them, so, you know, by linking them together to create your own system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, you insisted again on the idea, and that resonates with something we've heard this morning in this very room, which is the idea of having internal tools, even for creation purposes. That's certainly something we understand can be used by artists, and that means that you need to be trained to use these tools, and so we go back to training and education, which is something I'm quite fond of. But going back to these physical installations and what they require is, and we, in French, I guess we say the artistic peau, patte de l'artiste. There's something about the physical constructions, the physical work of art that involves some kind of an artistic gesture, and sometimes even in crafts, there's something as a craft gesture. And so here again, if we want to reproduce this, which some may argue is kind of what makes human art, right, kind of unique and interesting, we may wonder whether AI would be able to replicate that. But in order to do that, because it's a physical system, because it's a physical world, right, you're going to need some sort of a robotic expertise or some maybe other AI tools than purely generative. And so to tell you more, hopefully you will, Alina Glushkova, I want to ask you how, if you could tell us a little bit about your work on craft gesture and artistic gesture and how AI can be used to better understand this.
Thanks, Clément, for the transition. Thanks for the invitation to join the stage and to say a few words about the research that we do at the Center for Robotics at École, the main member of PSL University. I'm sure that the audience didn't expect to hear a talk about crafts when they came to the AI Days by France Digitale, but there is a link, and I will try to explain you that at the Center for Robotics, despite the name of the lab, it's called Center for Robotics, we also study humans a lot. We study actually human motions in the physiological perspective, and we study the professional gestures that are performed by the craftsmen, by craftspeople that are able to create magnificent masterpieces in very reduced amount of time. And we are applying and developing human-centered AI to better preserve, to better understand, and to better transmit these highly dexterous motor skills. So to do so, we have been working for almost 15 years now, and we have built a sort of simple methodology. It's a 6-step methodology. We can call it simple, but it's really not. We start from observing the use case, the craft to study by collecting the data. We have talked a lot today about the data. If we want to measure and to analyze human motion, we need this data also. Then we have a lot of intermediary steps, and our ultimate goal in the lab is to build perception layers that would make the machines smarter, that would make the machines able to understand not only what gesture is being performed by the human, but also how. And to give you a more concrete example of how it concretely goes, we actually leave the lab, we take a bunch of multi-sensing technologies like sensors. We start, of course, from cameras, and we go to the workshops of the craftsmen. We go to the training centers, les CFA, the manufacturing companies, and we record first of all the videos of the motion performed. Then we complete it by the audio signal that can also characterize the quality of the motion. The video signal we recorded from two different perspectives, the exocentric perspective, where we actually place the camera to record what is happening in the space, and the egocentric perspective. Here in the picture you can see Joanna from Cerfav wearing a helmet with a GoPro camera, and the GoPro camera records the fine-grained interaction between the hands and the materials, the tools, the instruments. And then finally we have a third modality here, which is the biomechanics, that we record with a full body suit that is worn by the subject we study. It is equipped with IMUs, accelerometers and gyroscopes that permit us to capture the rotation of human body articulations in the three-dimensional space. So we have now a beautiful multimodal data set. Here is another example. Can we read the video? How do we read the video? If I click again, it goes to the next slide. Yeah, here. So here we traveled to Germany, for example, the city of Krefeld. It was the capital of the manufacturing of the silk cloths for the Catholic Church a long time ago. And today in the city, there is only one museum remaining with a lot of machines exposed from the 17th century. And this museum is held by 4 to 5 volunteers who know how to handle the machines, and they have learned from their grandparents, their parents learned from their grandparents. So we went there and we spent a lot of time and place. We recorded the data together with an anthropologist who reinvented all the processes in order to better preserve the intangible cultural heritage of this city. And we applied these protocols in more than 13 different professions, like tapisserie au buisson, orfèvrerie à la Maison Christophe, maroquinerie, ganterie, taille du marbre, taille sur bois, 13 professions. And then we pretty quickly realized that we are actually, through this data, are capturing the explicit knowledge, but we are lacking the implicit one, the tacit one. And we realize that we need to involve more actively the experts, our subjects themselves, in the recording process. And we, to do so, we have asked them to watch the egocentric videos, to watch their hands doing the gestures, and to elicitate, to describe in details what they actually do and why they do so, to explain the intentions, to describe the quality of the motion, based on the principles of a psychologist, Pierre Vermèche, who introduced the principles of auto-confrontation, expliciting the gestures back in the 90s. And this textual modality is an extra modality that actually permits to us to annotate the rest of the data and to characterize it and to qualify it. And this is actually my favorite step, I must admit, because we have been facing surprising situations where experts come to us and say that I actually look at my hands and I realize right now, why am I doing the gesture like this and not like that? And this elicitation process is what is helping us to extract the implicit and the tacit knowledge, and we are going to try to reuse it in the LLMs, of course, and not only, also in other type of models, in order to create the semantics of the gesture. So we are also building methods and tools that permit to reconstruct this data we record, to visualize it, to explore it, to manipulate it, to handle it, to compare it, to apply computational analysis. Here, for example, in blue, you can see the expert glass blower who is performing a motion. And then in yellow, you can see the learner glass blower. So what we will do is to apply computational techniques and quantifications to apply different measures on spatial aspects, temporal aspects, postural aspects, geometrical aspects of the motion, in order to perform comparisons and to better understand what are the similarities and what are the differences between these two performances. And this has a certain potential, again, for the preservation of the know-how, for the transmission of the know-how, for the analysis of the ergonomic aspects of emotion. But focusing only on biomechanics and not looking at the impact of the gesture on the material would be similar to, I don't know, reading a book and turning pages, right? So more recently, we have started working with the egocentric images and videos that we captured that I showed you in the beginning. And we are trying to identify the fine-grained interactions between the hands, the materials, the tools, the instruments, by using techniques such as nerves and Gaussian splats. So we are actually decomposing this complex scene into layers. We have the background, the foreground, the arms, the tools, the materials. And we are planning to feed this decomposition into a vision language model that would actually permit us to better interpret the scene and to generate eventually instructional pedagogical videos that could be useful for learning a craft. And finally, the research that we do at the Center for Robotics of École des Mines, we are also applying it outside the lab again. In 23, we have developed an interactive embodied installation that we have deployed at le Musée du CNAM. And the idea was to permit to the visitor of the museum to play the role, let's say, of an apprentice glassblower, to put himself in the place of a glassblower for 1 minute 30 seconds, to try to imitate 3 basic gestures and actually to understand how difficult it is to place correctly your body to perform the gesture. So here you see a sort of scenography that we have created. There is a camera, an RGBD camera that is looking on the visitor. And behind the scenography, there is, of course, a computer with an algorithm that is estimating the positions of human body articulations in 2- and 3-dimensional space. And this algorithm compares also these positions to the ones of the expert and activates what we call the sensory motor augmented feedback that can take different shapes. It can be visual or auditory. And we have experimented different configurations and different combinations. We have collected all this data from 1,700 times this installation was activated. We have analyzed it, and the conclusion is that it doesn't only impact the engagement and the motivation of the visitor to explore the gesture, it also has a certain impact to the way that visitors embody and assimilate motion patterns. So that was that.
Thanks a lot. Okay, so I kind of have the hard task to conclude this panel with, unfortunately, I don't think we have time for one question, but maybe we still have 2 minutes, so I'll risk it. Maybe you could say in one word, we've seen how contemporary creation practices have very much included AI and understood it. What, in your opinion, what's the next step? What's the thing that you think? We haven't talked so much about LLM, for instance. Is that something you want to use right away, or any reaction to what we've heard maybe in other panels about the tools?
If I can say very briefly, there is one topic that I would like to explore that I can also see as a natural evolution of our works at the lab, is exploring how to build and use models that would be able to adapt to the user profiles, to their interaction preferences, for the analysis of the motion, but also for the learning of the motion. So adaptability for me.
As we have seen it in this round table, we go from the media to the tangible with robotics. And I think one of the dimensions which is very important to consider for the future, this is the emotional dimension, the affective one, which is something very qualitative. So, there is a kind of tension between the fact that we want to compute something very qualitative.
I think we just we need to keep open to a number of, as it is a very fast-changing environment, it's just stimulating curiosity and being open and adaptable to various options while trying to reinforce our sense of artistic sensibility, ability to tell stories in a very singular way, which is what we're trying to do.
And I would say to conclude that many of the tools that were developed around 2016 until today haven't been explored as much as they should. And so I think we should also reflect on the past. And maybe in the artistic world, we can have a little bit more time where we can explore those tools a little bit more profoundly and maybe discover things about them too.
Okay, and that will be the final word. I'd like to thank you, the four of you, again for your great presentations, and thank you all for coming.